Welcome to Murder.
And everything else.
My name is Joy.
And my name is Cheryl. And Joy and I are two old friends who are going to talk about murder and everything else.
Hey, it's Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday fun day.
Just a quick reminder that this podcast is not intended for children.
No, never.
That's right. So we are going to be continuing with part 2 this week of eating disorder interview with our guest Carson. So trigger warning, if anybody listening to this has suffered from or is currently suffering from an eating disorder, struggling with disordered eating patterns, just keep in mind that you may want to skip this and you may want to come back to this podcast at a later date. So just keep that in mind. Do you have any disclaimers, Cheryl?
No, that's it. Yeah, this is a heavy one again. So no, just that. I concur.
Well, don't forget to like and subscribe and follow,
Oh.
guys. You know, that was Cheryl's disclaimer, but whatever.
I'm fired from my own podcast. Everyone, like.
Last week you said something like
rate,
rate, and I was all rate.
Review. Okay, watch.
Review.
Oh, not even watch.
Undress.
Watch. Listen, like,
scratch.
Okay, follow, subscribe,
sniff.
And then also following and subscribing, I believe is the same thing. Joy and I had a conversation about this. There is some confusion out there, including my confusion, but I believe following is on podcasts and subscribe is on YouTube. I don't know. Either follow or subscribe. They're both free. That's what I know. And tell all your friends and family about it.
Yeah. Let's get the word out, guys, that this is so awesome. You're going to learn so much from listening to Cheryl and I talk. And I got a text this week from a friend who said, you could talk for 40 hours about nothing or something to that effect. And
which
she's
we do sometimes.
Absolutely right. I could talk for 40 years about nothing. So anyway, just think about all the great stuff you're going to learn by listening to me talk for 40 years about nothing.
You'll hear a lot of her correcting my grammar. That's a common theme.
That's right. Anywho, let's roll into our highs and lows.
Okay. I'll go first. Okay, so I'm going to do a low first. I live in Arizona, as you all know. And when I moved here, I was well aware of the heat. It's for 4 months out of the year, it is a consistent triple digit temperature, both morning and night. It's just 100 degrees even in the middle of the night. What I was not prepared for were the mosquitoes.
Ooh.
There are so many mosquitoes here, and they love me. Now they're starting to love Kevin, because the first year we were here, I was getting attacked and he wasn't. I don't know why. And now he is, and misery loves company, so I'm happy.
It's because you're juicy.
So now Kevin's juicy too. But for real, so I've talked to people who are originally from here or have lived here for a very long time, and they said that this is uncommon. It's been in the last couple of years or whatever, but they didn't have mosquitoes like this. I feel like I'm in Hawaii. But so I feel like I brought it or something, because I've spoken to a few native Arizonians, Zonies, I think they're called, which I think is cute.
Oh.
Yeah, I like that name. That this is not common, so I don't know what's happening, but it is ridiculous. it really is something I was not prepared for. I was a
Well, you can hire a company that will come and spray around your house for mosquitoes, although I'm pretty sure it kills
mm,
all of the pollinators and all of the like insects that are good in our planet. So
and all
just
the
be
living
careful with
beings.
that because also it's toxic to breathe in and you'll probably get some form of cancer from it.
Yeah, everything causes cancer. Well, we do. So, there's also scorpions, which I was well prepared for. And thank God, knock on wood, not seen one yet because we have an exterminator come diligently. And so the last time he came, Kevin asked him about the mosquitoes, and he put some kind of contraption out there. I think if they go in, they die, but I'm like, that's if they go in. So the guy, like, he recommended getting one of those zappers. I don't know. We'll have to do something. Anyway,
Wow.
that's my low. Actually, we could do a whole episode on the critters that Joy has in North Carolina. That could be its
Ooh,
own
yeah, the
show.
cicadas.
Oh no! And then you have to check your hoo-ha before you come in out, from outside.
Oh, the
Yes, you
ticks.
do. Oh
Tick
my
check.
God. You told me you had to check for slugs and ticks and
Slug.
did you tell me
Slug.
that? Well,
Well,
anyway, wherever
the
she lives,
ticks
you guys, you got to
the
check your
ticks like
private
to
parts.
burrow the ticks like to burrow into dark, warm crevices. So they
So,
do like
ladies, you
they
know
like
what
the
that means.
groin. They like the groin area.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
like your underarms. They like the
Yikes.
folds in like people's like necks and yeah, I will say when the kids were younger, we had some unfortunate tick check incidences, but I
Yeah,
guess
no, that's
we'll save that for the podcast on ticks.
yes, we will. But anyway, and I'll take the powers that be up there. I will take mosquitoes over ticks in my hoo ha any day. Okay, my high is, and this is going to sound completely ridiculous, but people who buy bag candy out there will understand. Okay, there's this those bags of candies that come with like a variety, right? So you get Reese's and you get Kit Kats and you get Snickers and Milky Way and whatever, right? And there's always like a majority of like you'll like so let's say there's a variety of four candies in there. You'll like maybe two and the other two. I remember I bought a bag and I do not like dark chocolate. So I was putting them on the side. So
What?
we have to keep our stuff in the fridge because it's so hot here. So you'd open
Oh.
the refrigerator door and you'd see all the dark Hershey candy on the shelf by the side, like ostracized from the rest of the bag. Yeah, I don't like dark chocolate. I'll eat it,
Oh
but I don't
man.
love it. It's not my favorite. You love dark
Oh,
chocolate?
I don't like milk chocolate. I
Because
like
it's
dark
too sweet,
chocolate.
right?
Yeah,
Okay, well,
too sweet.
anyway, so I saw this bag. I bought it last week. The first time I've seen, okay, I love sour chewy candies and hard candies. I love Jolly Ranchers. I found a bag. They had a bag of Reese's, Kit Kat, and Jolly Ranchers suckers and sticks. So bigger than those little Jolly Rancher individually wrapped candies. It's a little bit longer. I had never seen hard candy and chocolates mixed together like that. I was like, dude, this
Oh,
was made for me. Because sometimes I want the chocolate, and sometimes I want like I said, I love sour things, so I love Jolly Ranchers. And I was thinking, I have never seen this before. It's always all chocolate, it's all kind of in the same family.
yeah.
So I know that sounds really ridiculous, but it's the first time I've ever seen hard candy and chocolate mixed together. And so that was my little high for the week.
That's a good one.
Yay! It's something
Yeah.
so simple, but when I saw it in the market, I was like, I have never seen this before. So anyway, that's my high. What's yours?
Well, I'm gonna start with my low, like you did. I did something to my back.
That's your high?
and no, that's my low.
Just kidding.
And I don't know what I did, but as the week went on, it got progressively worse. And yesterday, I literally had to take ibuprofen like every 6 hours because it was so bad that like my head was actually hurting because of it. And I am not prone to
Oh,
headaches. And I don't know if it's because I slept poorly or because I turned a certain way or because I picked something up or maybe my purse was too heavy. I don't know what it was, but I realized that
my
if
purse was too heavy. I'm
yeah,
sorry. I just heard.
yeah, but I realized that if your back and is out of whack and you have a headache because of it, it kind of ruins your whole life. I
Oh
mean, it's
yeah.
awful.
No. Yeah.
So I woke up this morning. I still have a little bit of a backache, but the headache's gone and I actually can like do my normal stuff. So hopefully, whatever I did, I'm in the process of undoing it.
Good.
I didn't, I also wonder if yeah, I don't know, maybe my tennis shoes are like too worn out. But anyway, all right. And my high is that we have a non-binary subscriber. I'm so excited.
Really?
Guys,
That's so cool.
I have to go back to our data analytics, which I'm a total nerd for, and it tells us we get data about our audience. And we get it breaks it down into age and gender. And until recently, we've had female subscribers, male subscribers, and non specified. So the non specified could be non binary, but then there is a separate category for non binary, and it's always been at zero. But we are now at 1%. So I am so pumped for our non binary listeners. So thank
Yes.
you
Welcome.
for, yes, and thank you for making that zero go to 1%. That is so
Yay.
exciting. So yeah,
Tell all your friends. Watch,
that's right.
review, watch,
Watch,
review, subscribe.
lick, sniff, taste, feel, hear. Anyway,
That's so
this
cool.
week
Very cool.
we are heading back to our interview with our special guest, Carson. So, um, take it away, Carson.
Okay, so Carson, what prompted you to seek help?
I was kicking and screaming. um, it was definitely the well. What's you can cut that part out too. What prompted me to seek help was my heart. I think that it was to the point where I couldn't walk up the stairs without like my heart would just be racing
Oh
and I would
God.
be
Oh
like
man.
my vision would just go black and I was just like I mean I was literally I think I was like right before I went into the hospital I think I was way closer to like dying than I thought I was.
Yeah,
um
you could have had a cardiac arrest at any moment, probably.
yeah, and my heart rate was so slow like when I first went in. The first day I went
Scary.
in, yeah, I went in on like a Monday and they were checking my vitals and I passed out.
Hmm.
And I don't, what's a normal heart rate?
I think it's like in the 90s, like the high 80s to like I think 100 is like if you've been walking around the house and you sit down. But like I think my husband's is like 88 or something, but I know it can drop.
So it's been a
Yeah.
few years, but I think my resting heart rate was like in the 40s or
Oh, yeah,
50s.
no. That's
It
yeah,
was really
that's bad.
bad. Um, and I didn't know how to get help. I didn't know. I went to a lot of different people I went to my youth minister, which problematic in itself. My parents didn't quite know either. You know, friends obviously didn't know. I ended up um in my youth minister's office. I was on the floor. He had to leave to go to a meeting, and he handed me his sandwich, and I was able to take 2 bites and Google, you know, eating disorder help in Texas.
He left you there?
Oh
Yes,
my
and I was like
god.
so
What
close
in the
to death.
hell? Who are these people? Oh my God.
Guys, I just Googled. It says a normal resting heart rate for adults. Now, again, remember Carson was a teenager, range from 60 to 100 beats per minute. Generally, a lower heart rate at rest implies more efficient heart function and better cardiovascular fitness.
But
So,
not
like
that low.
a well-trained athlete
No.
might have a normal lower resting heart rate, but obviously, if yours was 40 and you were not an athlete, that would be scary.
I was working out like an athlete, but that
Oh
was not
God.
an athlete.
But when, okay, so when you went to your family and friends, did you ask them for help with your symptoms of, what you were going through or with your eating? Or did you make that connection?
I don't think I knew. Yeah, I don't think I knew enough. I think when I went to people, it was more of me just going to them being like, "Hey,
I don't feel right or
I don't really eat a whole lot."
oh, okay, so you did disclose that.
So I
Yeah.
didn't say I needed help necessarily until like the very end with the youth minister. That was the day I had to like call out of work. There was absolutely no way I was going to make it to the 45-minute drive to work. Um I don't even know.
Wow.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know how I made it through that, but
And
um
Carson, what kind of help did you seek? Like, did you seek like medication? Did you seek like a treatment facility? Did you like once, even though you were kicking and screaming, I mean, once like the lid was pried off, like the situation, I mean, what was the what was the treatment? Because obviously, you'd been sitting on this for a considerable amount of time.
And was it when he left right after you were on the floor? Was it that moment?
yeah, that was the moment where I was like, okay, it's official, like too many people know I have to do something, right? Like I can't pretend that this didn't just happen kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um so I didn't know. I didn't know what to look for. I feel like I had absolutely zero knowledge about any kind of treatment. Like, I didn't know if there was medicine. I didn't know if there was. I thought genuinely that it was not going to be that big of a deal. I thought that I could go to like a therapist once a week and it would be fine. So, there's not a lot of options when it comes to treatment. Like, still to this day even it's very very pathetic what kind
Mhm.
of treatment there is for eating disorders. So the one there was one in the Woodlands, and that's the one I went to. It's called Eating Recovery Center, and I could do a whole podcast on that and places like it because it was so problematic, and the recovery rate is just, again, pathetic. Like people come out of there and then they go back, they're back the next year, they come back. Um, so even though the hospital experience for me did save my life, I will openly admit that it is, there's so much wrong with it. So to clarify, I started in a partial hospitalization program. So it's every single day. You get there in the morning for breakfast and then you'd leave after dinner. So it's an all day thing and you would just go home to sleep. I gave them a phone call and we had our consultation, and they were debating whether or not to send me to um what's it called where you live there, not partial hospitalization but
Like an in treatment facility?
inpatient. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Inpatient.
So they were debating between inpatient and partial hospitalization. And maybe it's just because I downplayed it, or maybe it's just because there are no inpatient facilities in uh, the part of Texas I grew up in. I think they were all out of state. There might have been one in Dallas, but it's only where there are beds. Like, you don't just get to go to the closest one. You get to go to the closest one with an empty bed. So, they could have sent me to, like, Chicago or something. And it's like, it's already hard enough. I had to uproot my entire life, right? Like, I was a senior in high school, and now all of a sudden, you can't go to school. You're in the hospital all day. I had to quit my job that I loved. I didn't want my boyfriend at the time to see my body at all, because they were forcing me to eat there. And I thought
Mhm.
that I had just ballooned up. And so I didn't see him. I told, like, my two best friends and, like, nobody else. So, um, yeah, so they were debating on sending me to inpatient or partial hospitalization. I think I could have had such a smoother recovery if they had just sent me to inpatient to begin with. I really think I needed that. But they didn't. I don't know if they didn't have room or what, but I went to the PHP, partial hospitalization, and it didn't help at first. Again, I could do a whole podcast about what that was like, um, because it's so intense. But having left there, I was not at all recovered, right? It's a matter of how long will your insurance pay for you to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
all of these girls, there was, like, no guys really when I was there. There was one little boy, but all of these girls, or all these people, were forced to leave before they were ready to leave because of
God,
how long insurance would pay.
that is awful. Oh my
Oh my
gosh.
god.
Yeah, and also the staff that they had there were pretty awful too. Like, the therapist, I think that my recovery again would have been so much faster if this there I was 18 when I went in, and that's the legal age. Like, you're not allowed to talk to my parents without my consent. And she did that. She lied to my parents and told my parents that I had given consent for them to come in. When I
Oh.
said, "Do not bring them," I was not ready. I was just it's not that I didn't want my parents to be involved, it's that I was not ready. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't even admit to myself that
Right.
I had an eating disorder. I was not ready to bring my parents into this conversation. Um, and she did. She brought him in and she told him all my info, which is, like, super illegal. Um,
Oh my
Wow.
God.
Yeah, and so I was livid with my parents because I thought that they had just gone behind my back. My mom brought it up casually because she thought that I knew that she was there. Anyway, that set me back. That I was, like, making genuine progress. That might have been like 2 or 3 weeks into treatment when that happened. And then I just felt like my parents lied to me. My therapist lied to me. I am going to stop eating again. And that just set me back so far. So there's so much problematic there's so many problematic things about how the treatment's set up with that. Even with, like, after I was out of the hospital, when I relapsed, like, a year or two later, I sought help in this group called EDA, which is like AA, but for eating disorders.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And that was problematic too because I'm not a religious person. Excuse me. And the entire thing was based on
A higher
um,
power or
submitting to a
God.
higher power.
Oh
Yep.
And
God.
it was like recovery if you're if you're Christian. And if you're not
Yeah.
Christian, then ooh, you're gonna have a hard time recovering.
Oh my
Mhm.
God. What the
Um,
hell?
so
What?
there's and it's not led by professionals. The program EDA was not written by professionals. It was written by
Yeah,
two ladies who
it's
did
like
AA.
OA. It's like Overeaters Anonymous. It's based on your the basic 12-step program
Yeah.
that's used in AA. It deals very heavily with a higher power. And then also, they're like basically led by people who also struggled with, I mean, yeah, I spent so much
Yeah.
time in OA. I could write a book on OA.
Yeah. It's probably the same. I mean, like it was, yeah, the meetings were led by people who were actively struggling, and there were no sponsors because there just were no people that were recovered enough to sponsor anyone.
Oh my God.
Right.
Um,
It's
Wow.
crazy.
so yeah, so the
So,
treatment is like, honestly, it is still to this day lacking. Um, and the recovery rate is, I mean, it's shameful.
Yeah, it it is it is problematic, and I will tell you that like there's been a lot of spotlight lately on also the kind of treatment they do for like these wayward teen camps, which are like very similarly linked
Hmm.
to, where they send problem teenagers. And I don't know if you saw that documentary that Paris Hilton did recently,
Hmm.
um, and where she talks about one of these camps that her parents sent her to and how abusive they were and how they relied very heavily on just like basically breaking someone's will or spirit to get them to like,
mhm,
so they lose all autonomy over themselves and their bodies. Um and it's sad because there's this mentality, well, they're just kids so we can do all this stuff. But a lot of the treatment practices similar to inpatient treatment for eating disorders and for other types of disorders, a lot of it is just very old, like psychological practices that were, established a long time ago, and I would even dare say probably when kids were institutionalized for things. Because remember when that used to be a thing, they'd just be like, oh, well, we're just going to institutionalize these kids because they don't look or sound like any of the other kids.
mhm,
And
yeah,
sometimes, like, there was nothing wrong with the kids. They just didn't communicate, like maybe you or I did.
general,
And
yeah.
then, they find out 10, 15, 20 years later, oh, hey, this kid actually knows what's going on. It's like, oh my God, it's like worse than, sending sending I don't know, dogs to shelters. I mean, so awful.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I
Um
my one of my best friends actually went to a troubled teen, you know, I don't even know what they called it. Institute, Troubled Teen Institute
oh
in
my God.
Utah. She was, shipped off to Utah, and horror stories again. Like, it's sad that we both relate so much on these horror stories.
Is
I
that
feel
it?
like Utah is the breeding ground for all these weird programs. I swear to you, because like the one Paris Hilton went to, and I think they're all like, I don't know, maybe it's because there's like a high concentration of I don't know, one certain religion in that state. I'm not going to call out any names, God forbid. We put a plug in for someone's specific belief, religious belief, but I don't know, man. Maybe
I
there's no rules there concerning a child's like rights, individual rights or something, and that's why they're all in Utah, but I don't know.
It is, Utah has very lax laws when it comes to
Oh
that kind of
God.
stuff. Um, yeah,
Wow.
they have a pretty spicy history.
So, Carson, earlier you said that you relapsed. So, can you talk about that? Like, when you were released from treatment and, what happened after that? Just, can you talk about that?
Yeah. And I should clarify too, to anyone listening, I am doing great. I'm doing better than ever right now, and I know I've talked a lot about lying, but I was a kid then and I'm not now. You're just gonna have to believe me. Um,
Right.
That's awesome. That's really great.
I am. I'm doing, I don't think you can ever be fully recovered. I think recovery is something that just is with you for forever, but
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think it gets significantly easier. Like, um, I mean, the struggle, like when I was struggling with the eating disorder, it was an everyday. I thought about all day, every day was food in some way, and
Ugh.
that kind of rhymed. But I'm at a place where that no longer rules my life, and I'm perfectly comfortable, very open talking about it. I was definitely not back then, but when I first left the hospital, I I probably told people I was recovered, right? But I definitely, if anything, left there and was like, freedom to do worse things. Now I'm
Mm,
not supervised all day,
mm,
you know?
mhm,
Um,
Mhm.
and I was just getting worse, if anything. And then I had this youth conference where they're like, does anyone want to give a speech about something that they've overcome? And nobody raised their hands. Nobody was gonna do it. And it was kind of one of those things where I was like, oh my gosh, whatever. Like, because my friend was gonna have to do it and she did not want to. And I was like, I'll take one for the team, but I am not gonna get in front of all these people and lie and tell them that I'm recovered when I'm not, because that would be like against everything I stood for. So I was just, in a weird way, as like toxic as that youth group culture thing was, the speech that I ended up giving did propel me into like taking my recovery seriously, because I was like, I cannot lie, not to God, you know.
yeah. So
um,
yeah, it made you hold yourself accountable.
it did. It gave me
Yeah.
some accountability. Um, so that was, I think, what originally I got it together. Like something clicked in me. I really, you know, I changed my ways, and it's hard. Obviously, it was years of disordered eating. You cannot cure that quickly, right?
Overnight. Yeah. It's not a
And
switch.
in the years since then, I think so I was that was like 2018 when I got out of the hospital, and I had ups and downs throughout the years. There would be times in my life where I would start binging and purging again, times where I would start restricting, and then times in between that where things were going fairly well. Um, I think still, I mean, I still get urges to do things all the time, but it's at the point where I now have the tools and the coping skills and the support that I don't have to fall back on those things anymore. Like, it's
Mhm.
so silly how simple it is. Like, for example, like throwing up, right? That's still, that urge to do that when I'm full is still something that, it creeps up every now and then. But when I was like really, really struggling with the recovery process, one thing that would help was when I had that feeling, my coping skill was to call my sister or my friend or whatever.
Mhm.
And you had to, if you just ate, you have to talk to them for 30 minutes. And then after that 30 minutes, the fullness feeling will be gone.
Mhm.
And that just sounds so simple. And it was
No, but
just
it makes
so
sense.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Um,
makes sense.
and so it's like, it's such a useful tool for stuff like that, to just know that, like, those feelings are temporary. And just the shift too, like, as I've gotten older, my priority in life is no longer my body, right? I mean,
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
was everything. Like I said,
Yeah.
I was getting attention. That was the first time I felt valued by other people, and that value was solely my physical appearance, my body.
Right.
Um,
Mhm.
and the way that my life changed so drastically when I stopped caring what I looked like. Um, like, wow, I feel like I'm finally, in this past like year or two, at a place where I'm living my life to enjoy my life. And it really, again, I have great people. I live with three amazing. Two of them are adults. One of them's uh, three, three amazing roommates that they also don't care what I look like, and I don't care what they look like, and we just hype each other up because we care who we are as people,
People.
not our
Mhm.
bodies. And like that environment just fosters like such good vibes. Like
That's so great.
it really, it's,
Yeah.
I'm, I, it's douchey to say, but I'm proud of myself.
You should be. No,
No, that's
that's
not
wonderful.
douchey at all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very freeing to not be you to hold yourself in that
Yeah.
mindset and be obsessed with food. Oh, I know how that feels, and it's very freeing not to be just tied down with all of that. So I'm
Yeah.
so glad for you.
You really can't live your life with an eating disorder. And it can feel like you are, but your body is quite literally just doing everything it can to survive.
Hmm.
Like you have nothing left to give. Like there's so much out there that like you can't experience if you're just focused on what you're eating.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, it affects everything. Like you want to go out with friends,
Hmm.
they want to go out to lunch or dinner. That's yeah,
Yep.
you're gonna have to find a way to push your food around or whatever it may be. Yeah,
Hmm.
so it's so freeing not to worry about your body or weight, I should say.
Yep.
Weight for women is just a really ugh, it's just a thing.
It really is. It's just glorified, and it quite honestly does not matter. But that was another thing I wanted to mention too, was there's no such thing as looking like you have an eating disorder. People would
Mhm.
Hmm.
always tell me either you don't look like you have an eating disorder or you do look like you have an eating disorder. Again, that is when I was in the hospital, there was 800 different kinds of eating disorders that I didn't even know existed. And not
Mhm.
everyone looked like, when you think of an eating disorder, you just think of anorexia and you just think of skinny people. Well, I shouldn't say you. I just thought of that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Um,
I actually did a little bit of
That's interesting.
digging, and I found out that less than 6% of people with eating disorders are medically diagnosed as underweight. So that whole belief that like a fat person can't have an eating disorder, I mean, we're talking about 94% of people with eating disorders are not underweight. So that totally debunks that. And
yeah.
then I also found another statistic that said eating disorders affect 9% of the population worldwide. So 28.8 million Americans will have an eating disorder in their lifetime. And the worst one of all of them is called BED or binge eating disorder. It's the most prevalent, and there's all different kinds because binge eating disorder also is like the main symptom of like bulimia or anorexia or bulimorexia or
Hmm.
um and Cheryl and I have talked about this, but there is this genre of videos on YouTube called mukbangs where and it came from South Korea where um it start originated there, and then now you just go to YouTube and type in mukbang. It's all over the place, and there's all different genres of mukbangs. They're the ones where they shove tons of food in their mouth at one time. There's the ones where it's ASMR, so you just hear the sounds of someone eating, the
Hmm.
slurping. There's the ones where it's messy eating. There's the one where it's very where it's like specific to a kind of food that they focus on, and you just watch someone else eat. And it's when I first started watching them, I remember people just thinking it was so weird. And now it's just very normal.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many. Yeah. And you know what? When I started watching it, it wasn't that long ago. I was restricting. I was I was eating very little. And just like you, Carson, all I thought about was food because I was hungry all the time,
Hmm.
starving all the time. And so one day I remember I was sitting on the couch and I thought, Oh, you know what would be really satisfying right now is to watch someone else eat a lot of food because I couldn't. And I know that sounds strange because you would think, but isn't that going to make you crave food? And I don't, it was a weird, it was just a weird solution. But when I went to these YouTube channels and watched people eat a lot of food, I would scroll down to through the comments, and there were other people that said that that it satisfied them to watch someone else eat because they didn't want to
Mm.
eat. Isn't that weird? Because you would think it would make you want to eat, but it was like, I don't know, I guess living vicariously through them. But that's how I discovered mukbangs.
That is also something I did as a teen.
Yeah.
I would watch someone else eat the food that I wanted to, and it was just,
Wow.
yeah, it's like a way
Interesting.
of tricking your brain.
Yeah, isn't that it's so interesting because you think it would have the opposite effect, but in some strange way it's satisfying. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. So Carson, I'm the next couple questions you actually kind of answered through talking about your treatment and what that experience was like. But what things personally did you find the most helpful during the time that you were in inpatient or in this treatment program, and when you were struggling at the height of your eating disorder? And what things did you find the least helpful?
Ooh, so definitely eating disorders thrive in secrecy.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
That is like such a powerful statement for me. Like, uh, it's so hard to have an eating disorder when you've got a good support team around you.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mhm.
like, once everyone was on board with my recovery, and that was something that I had to be the one to choose to recover, right? It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what everyone else is doing if I am actively not ready to recover.
Right. Right.
So once I was in that place, it was then a matter of, like I said, like I would call my sister anytime I wanted to purge. Um, and her being there just to talk me through it and make sure I didn't. Like, having people around that know what to do. So that means that you have to give them the tools. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
I told about 9 different people that I was having an eating disorder, and having 9 people not immediately seek treatment for you is very invalidating, and like it feels like, okay, well, yeah, then I guess I don't really need treatment. So
Mhm.
the reason they did that, though, was not because they didn't care, it was because they simply did not have the tools. They
Right.
did not know what to do.
Right.
They were
Right.
in the same boat as me. Like, who knows what to do when it comes to eating
Exactly.
disorders?
Yeah.
So, definitely finding people to support you is one. I also think that, like, one of the biggest things for me was just I was so embarrassed about going into the hospital, about having an eating disorder. I was so ashamed, right? And that's why I wasn't telling anyone, because I was just
Mhm.
like, this is such a like a such a dark part of my life that nobody needs to know. But there was a switch like flipped in me once I did tell people, and once I gave that youth group talk. It wasn't like a pity party anymore. It turned into, oh, my story can help people.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, okay, I am not a victim. I am like, I can use this now to like my experience was shitty, but I don't have to let anyone else in my life have that shitty of an experience, like I mean,
Mhm.
like I said, it's individual, but like I used it to spread awareness. So what I started doing was hosting Eating Disorder Awareness Week. Um, I did it at my college. At the time, I was going to a college in Texas, and they had nothing planned for Eating Disorder Awareness Week. And so I took it upon myself. I went to a bunch of different people. I made it happen. We had a scale smashing party.
Oh,
So
that
Nice.
sounds wonderful.
it was so fun. We let people walking by smash the scale. We, I voluntold, as I like to call it. I voluntarily told my friends. It was like three of us, and we went around the entire college. It took so long, and we put little affirmation cards that we made on every mirror. like,
Oh
like
my gosh.
it took
That's
forever,
so
but we had.
cool.
That is so cool. Oh, that is so amazing.
Yeah, and it was just it really turned into like it turned like that's one of my best friends still. I talk to her every day. Like that was how we really got close. And I told her I was coming on the podcast. She said, "You better mention that."
That's so
Yeah, so you
cool.
turned it into a positive thing, and that is just wonderful. It really is.
Yeah, I wish I had known at the time how much see, yeah, and I'm getting a little like choked up here, but like
Mhm.
how much there is for you. Like I I wish I could go back in time and slap myself across the face and just say like, "Girl, like if I had never done all of those things, I probably would have had exactly what I wanted," which sounds a little cuckoo, but I mean like I messed up my digestion. Somebody help me
Digestive
out.
system?
Yes.
Your digestive? Yeah.
Yeah, I messed up my hungerness cues, my fullness cues.
Mhm.
Like obviously throwing up that much, like really, like yeah, I can't.
Yeah,
So
it's
people often recover from anorexia and then gain more weight than what they originally weighed before
yeah.
were like seriously anorexic, and that's
Mhm.
because you mess up your body so much that you can no longer digest food the same. So
Mm.
of
Yeah,
course,
you also mess your metabolism.
Metabolism.
that's
Hmm.
the thank you. That was that word.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my weight fluctuated so much up and down and up and down. And it's just like none of that would have probably happened if I had just like been where I'm at now. And I don't regret anything. I don't wish to change anything, but I would love to just explain to myself that if you don't mess it up in the first place, you're gonna be good. Like it'll be okay.
Right.
Yeah. But
Um,
you know what? You work through it, and that's the most important thing. And I know it's it's not over. It's not done. It's you're
mhm.
still have to. There are probably days that are better than others, but we all go through crap and wish we could tell our younger selves,
Yeah.
give our younger selves advice. But you're, like I said, you're human. We're
Yeah.
just people. We're
Yeah.
imperfect, and but the great thing is you worked through it. And from what you're telling us, you turned it around into a positive um, thing. Trying to help others. And I loved what you did with the mirrors. I think that is so cute. I think that is
Mhm.
amazing.
I
I,
actually do. That's like a. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I cut you off?
No, no, I was just saying that I really liked it as well.
mm-hmm.
I've actually made that into like such a personality trait of mine because that started when I was in the hospital was the first time I had ever seen anyone do that. We would make little affirmation cards like the quote that I took away that I relate to the most is feel your feels and eat your meals. Uh it was just so cute, and this one lady always said it and she had an accent. She was like feel your feels and eat your meals, and so stuff like that we would write down and put up in the bathroom in the hospital. Um, so yeah, I did that all over the campus, and they stayed up. Nobody really took them down. And
Oh,
then I
I'm
did that.
sure. I'm positive that you positively affected at least one person, but I'm sure many more
I hope
when they
so.
saw that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm positive.
I did it at my next college. I do it everywhere. I did it at my last job because
That's amazing.
a coworker had shared with me that they were struggling. So I just decked out the whole bathroom.
Oh my
Aw.
God. Because I'm telling you, most women at one time or another, or at this very moment, is struggling with eating habits or their weight. I mean, it's just, it's a common theme. So you are
Yeah.
helping a lot of people.
Yeah,
We actually had
we really are.
someone come in to fix the sink in our house, and they ended up sending my roommate a message being like, "Your mirror is adorable." Like,
Oh,
I was like, "Aw."
that is
Yeah.
really cool. I've never heard anyone do that. I know that I used to go to a park in California where someone, actually, I saw it here too. And maybe this is a trend that people are doing, but they take these little stones and then they paint like a ladybug on it, or it's just something really cute, and they leave them all over the place. And then I would be walking in the park and I'd see one in some, obscure place, and it brought a smile to my face. So it's
Yeah.
someone just spreading joy, and so you're spreading positive affirmations, which is really really needed, especially for women. I mean, I know, Joy, like you said, men suffer from eating disorders as well, but
Yeah.
we're women, and so we
Yeah.
can speak for women, and the majority of the population is it's women that have um, the issue with weight and all of that. I'm not.
Yeah, and I think as women we have to learn to like and we have to tell other women and especially young girls who are become going to become women that like we're enough. Just like what we bring is enough. That's enough. Like we don't have to be everything. We don't have to be the best cook and the best mom and the best worker and the best employee and the best student and the best, I think, and we have to look the best and we have to smell the best. We have to have the best body and the least amount of hair and the most beautiful hairdo. I mean, it's like everywhere we look, there's this message that there's something that's going to make us better. I mean, if it's not a diet, it's a hair color. If it's not a hair color, it's a hairstyle, it's a makeup. And now with all these influencers, you're being bombarded.
Oh yeah.
And I find it so like I know someone who has had the gastric sleeve and it failed, not failed, but they lost a significant amount of weight and then they ballooned up. Then they had gastric bypass and that they lost a bunch of weight and then they ballooned up and then they did intermittent fasting and they lost a bunch I mean, it's like I mean, how many things are you going to throw at this before something sticks? Or are you just going to look in the mirror every day and say, I'm enough just as I am, and I'm okay, like right where I am, and I don't have to lose another 300 pounds and gain back the 400 pounds in order to prove to myself and everyone around me that I'm enough just as I am? Because if you're chasing that, I mean, I think it's a recipe for disaster. I've often said that 100, 200 years from now, they're going to do autopsies on what's left, much like we did. Remember the Mount Vesuvius, that the volcano, and then they dug up the bodies because people were frozen doing everyday things because the lava caught, like the volcano caught them unawares, and so they didn't have time to run away or evacuate.
Mhm.
And I said they're going to dig up people from like 1995 or 2000 to like 2025 or 2035. They're going to go, something was wrong with all their stomachs. They were all born with these little tiny stomachs. And they'll be like, something happened. And then also, they were injecting all this like formaldehyde into their faces. And
Mhm.
so I'm not sure what was going on in this time period. And they'll probably have like medical journals where they're like, remember the great Botox pandemic of, or the great like, stomach stapling neuroses of the 2000 aughts or something, because it's not normal. Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
it's not normal. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And
and I want to say that,
it perpetuates more crazy.
hmm but I
It
will
doesn't
say,
perpetuate less.
yeah. But I think one positive in the last few years, and I don't know if it started with Jennifer Lopez, but
Mhm.
There are a lot of positive images for bigger women now. And that turned somewhere, I don't know where, a few years ago, but and I'm really happy about that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm really
I
happy about
love
that.
I love that song by Lizzo where she says,
Oh, I love
um,
Lizzo.
she says, it's it's in that song about damn time. She says, "It's thick 30." I love
Yeah,
it. I'm all,
I
you know what?
watched
It's thick 30 somewhere, girl.
exactly, but she did they did a documentary on when she was casting the dancers for one of her tours or something, and it was so wonderful to watch. These bigger women just, just throwing down. These ladies could dance and they had the best personalities, and it was so positive. And I loved that they followed her casting this show. It was really positive. I do think that as much as I sometimes rag on Instagram and all of this for the negativity, and the unrealistic images they put out for especially young girls, we there we have taken a turn um, to positively portray bigger women. So I am
Mhm.
happy about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so what, if anything, are the things you take away from this life experience?
I think if anything, it was a change in perspective of
Mhm.
like I really, really, really had to learn that my value as a person is not my body. Like it almost feels rebellious in a way now because I dress how I want. I do what I want. I don't sit ladylike anymore. I don't wear bras. You're lucky if I'm wearing underwear half the time. I,
You go,
I
you go, girl.
love it.
Yeah,
shaving is a afterthought, like,
yeah.
and
Like, why do we have to? Yeah,
yeah, it really does. It feels rebellious, you know? It's like letting, letting your body exist as it does naturally is somehow like going against the grain,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. Of the societies and norms. But I love the word perspective because I think that is what frees. Um, I know it's what frees me from being hard on myself is the perspective. So
Mhm.
I love that word. I love that you use that because I think when you change your perspective, um, you realize that there are some things that are not important in the end, and
Yeah.
it's taken over your life. So I'm so happy for you.
Yeah. And you honestly, you gotta feel your feels and eat your meals.
Exactly.
Just
I
suck it up
love
and do
that.
I know, me too.
it.
So
And
Carson, do you feel like you're cured, or do you feel like you or do you feel like there's like a space. I don't like the word cured, especially after this conversation we had, but do you feel like there's a safe space that you now exist in, that you're not going to struggle with this anymore, or this is not going to come back?
no, that's such a valid question. Like so many people often will ask that of like, are you good now? You know?
Oh gosh, really?
um
Mhm.
and it's no, it's like it's valid because it's coming from a place of like worry. My mom is
Mhm.
always checking in, which I gave her a good scare in high school, so it's warranted. Um,
Mhm.
she's always asking how I'm doing, and I don't, like I said, I don't think recovery will ever be something that's like in the past. I think recovery is linear. Recovery is an active thing. However, I will say once I got to the place of not caring, all of a sudden everything else kind of fell into place weirdly enough, of like I had to go through so many stages and phases of like trying to find the balance of what is eating what I want to versus overeating versus not eating enough versus, I genuinely had to relearn how to eat in the hospital.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
then there was this plateau of like I wasn't over exercising anymore. I was eating when it was an appropriate time to eat, and I was eating an appropriate amount of food that would give me nourishment. And even if I didn't and I slipped up, or let's say I had a bowl of ice cream for dinner, it was not the end of the
The end of
world
the
anymore.
world. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And when I got to that place where I was healthy enough, I am at like it clicked. Like all of a sudden I'm eating better than ever. And what I mean by that is not that I'm eating salads every day for every meal.
Mhm.
I mean that I'm eating a variety of different kind of foods that are going to keep me nourished. And it's not because I plan it out that way. It's because I've worked so damn hard to learn how to structure like what I'm eating in a healthy way. And
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
worked so hard on that that it's kind of effortless now. I can intuitively decide, you know, what I should eat and balance that out with what I want to eat, right? I'm
Mhm.
not sacrificing my if I'm really craving a burger, I'm just gonna get the burger, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Otherwise, you
Mhm.
obsess over it and eat a
exactly,
bunch
I'm
of
not
other
gonna
stuff.
deprive myself anymore,
Yeah. Mhm.
but I'm also not gonna overdo it. I now I know that there is that happy middle place, and same with
Mhm.
working out. Through my whole life, I couldn't work out without over working out, and the goal was always to lose weight. It was always
Mhm.
cardio, 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 lose weight, lose weight, lose weight. Um, Recently I got a gym membership and I was traveling, and I got the gym membership so I could use the showers. And I say recently, it's, 2 months now maybe. And like I said, it was only to use the showers really. But I started working out and not doing cardio, just working out, like moving my body,
Mhm.
trying to like do what felt right. And all of a sudden I'm all buff now. Not really.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, but I
Oh,
have
it's wonderful.
muscle that I like never I genuinely didn't know it was possible for me to get to a place where I'm not over exercising, but I have
Mhm.
a little muscle in my arm now. And
Yeah.
it's like rediscovering, I don't know, it's like I just didn't know I could get to that place. So to answer, sorry, this is like so rambly, but to answer your question, I think there is a place where you can be balanced. Maybe that's a good way to put it. Like
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not
Exactly.
overdoing it and I'm not underdoing it. I'm just vibing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. A place of acceptance, like you accepted Carson
Hmm.
and maybe before you didn't accept Carson, you know?
Mm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I
That is
really
so
like
true.
that. I like that you use the word balance.
Yeah.
I
That's
think it's great
exactly it.
too that you're 23 and you're using the word balance because I'm 50 something. And I feel like I legitimately forget. I forget the number. But I sometimes feel like I only I learned balance so like every decade I had to learn another part of the balance that
Hmm.
like I feel like I'm getting to balance now. So I think, wow, how cool would it have been if I had learned balance when I was 23?
Yeah.
Like it would have
Exactly.
made the last 30 years a whole lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah. That
Yeah,
is
but we're all on
so.
our own journey and you
This
can't
is true.
compare.
This is true. But it's wonderful that you're so young and you've learned so much. in such a your short time that
And
you've
do
I
been
you
on
know
know.
Earth.
that?
You've learned a lifetime, as it seems.
Do
But
you
I
know
also
that
feel sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, do you know that saying that's like God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers or something?
Oh God.
Um, that has been in my head recently because there's this meme of this like this person who's like really struggling, like he's like bent over on the wall or something, and it's just like, please God, pick a different soldier. um,
That's funny. I
I
am you know the one I really love is there's this bumper sticker that says God is my captain and somebody took it and made it say dog is my captain and put a little picture of a dog. So whenever I see people with like God related bumper stickers, I always superimpose the word dog in there
Oh,
just
that's
mentally.
funny.
So
that's
that's
funny.
pretty funny. Well, Carson, I thank you so much for
Yes,
answering our questions.
thank you so much.
I know what's going to happen is we're going to be done with this podcast and I'm going to be editing. I'm going to come up with like 50 new questions. Like why didn't we ask her that? And why didn't we ask her that? But I just feel like it's so valuable to have someone young willing to talk about something like again, that we tend to whisper about and not actually talk out loud about. And also, you're not that far removed from this process, so I think it makes it more real for
Yeah.
people as opposed to say, if we get a 70-year-old who rolls up in here and wants to talk about like, when they were a cheerleader when they were 16, it just doesn't pack the same kind of punch.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate, you being willing, open, transparent, and to share your experiences and your wisdom with people because again, I mean, I'd like to say that, you were the last kid that's ever going to have to deal with this, but um you're not, and there's going to be other kids that deal with this kind of thing. So uh, I wish
Yeah.
there weren't. But just checking in with both of you. Do either of you have any other questions or any other commentary that you want to toss out there?
I just want to thank Carson for coming on, and I know that your experiences are going to resonate with people out there. They're either going to have experienced something similar themselves or they know someone that's experienced this. So I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your story.
Well, I hope so. I know that even if people don't know it yet, I know everybody knows someone who's
Hmm.
struggling, you know.
Yeah.
And if you don't, it's not that they're not, it's that you just don't know yet. But I
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
say I also Joy, I feel the same way. I feel like I left out giant chunks, I could keep talking forever. Joy and
Well,
I haven't met Cheryl. I haven't known you for too long, but I know Joy and I are similar, and we could probably talk about this for like a 9-hour podcast
yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good
Yeah.
to talk about it, like you said, Cheryl, because like eating disorders, they really do. They live in secrecy, and so it's so crucial to have an open dialogue about it.
Yes. Yes. For
Well, ladies,
sure.
um, I know we didn't talk about crime today or murder, but you know
Mhm.
what is a real crime?
What's that, Joy?
That we
Why?
are out of time.
That's right.
Got me.
Thanks for listening, everyone, and don't complicate your day. Bye.
Goodbye.